Hey guys, it's Steve Arnold with Real Estate on Record. We're with Mike Gatti, and me and Mike are just going to be chatting about just basically what we're seeing in the market. We just did a podcast just recently, but I think this is imperative to kind of go into another level here and what we're experiencing. Mike, I mean, remember this morning we were chatting about that one story. We won't obviously name clients' names, but we got to the market and there was adjustments in price and stuff like that, and then ultimately a sale.
Yeah, so the one we were talking about, I think that you're mentioning, is basically we were priced a little bit higher than what should have been for market value. We brought a fairly decent offer early on. We had a couple conditions that on the seller's end were a little bit astronomical compared to what we're used to in regular market conditions. Never mind in a slower market, and basically we ended up taking 250K less 3 weeks later from the original offer. And even just to put in perspective, another offer that we saw this morning, we had submitted an offer on a property, and basically we had a condition that we wanted to sell our house, so we had an SPP, and they were worried about basically us firming up, and we had a fantastic property basically unload, and they took $100,000 less just because of the fact that they needed the certainty, and they didn't. What the agent told me was they didn't have the certainty in the market, so they were going to take a firm offer, even though it was 100K less. The deal, right? Like, it goes a long way being firm, but ultimately people are looking for security versus taking that risk in time right now.
Well, you know what? The power of firm, that's going to be a new term, right? The power of firm. I think it's going to be obviously more in every day that we're dealing with. It's going to have more weight to it. Because remember before, we'll give you a cash offer. Nobody cared because everything was cash offer. Everything was on a mortgage, but it was going to get paid whatever on closing. So I think now, like, especially that offer, again, the product that you have to sell plus what you were offering, you were a sure bid. Like, you beat the number one offer, didn't deliver the check. So you're next in line to kind of take this through, because we were confident we could have sold your client's house. But again, if I was retiring, it's like, what's $100,000? Like 2.7, whatever it is. Like, forget it. Let's dump it. This is a sure thing. Probably a real quick close. We get our money. We start our retirement. But even going back to your first one, the first client you're talking about, because I remember that one, we had it on the market. We got a flurry of buyer showings like crazy for the amount, like $3 million plus property had so many showings. And then ultimately we get one offer, and then client refused it because they thought it was too low. And then in hindsight, it was like 150 more than what we ended up selling. I think, was that the amount? I forgot the exact amount.
250. Yeah, 250.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're getting stuck with clients now, where I don't know if it's optimism, or just believing that this, it's almost like in denial, where the market is shouldn't be doing this. Like, people expect it to be doing like the what it's been doing forever. It's like, if it came down in value, it came back up, and there was never any like black hole, or deep black hole rather. And I think that's where a lot of what we're experiencing now with clients, where the property I just sold, well, we started really high, a lot higher than I wanted to start. And then we ended up selling, like, I think it was like 50% or something, or 55% off of list price. I'll do the math just shortly. But it's wild, because I think if we started at the right price where we originally wanted to go at, we probably would have sold it maybe $200,000 more than what we sold for now. A lot lower than what they initially wanted to go on the market at, but a lot higher than what actual buyer is willing to pay currently right now in this market. It's one of those things now that even going forward for us as a business, it's like we got to make sure our clients, they're not testing the market anymore, because ultimately it costs a lot of time, money, and energy to get a property on the market. Plus, it's clients maybe not understanding, thinking that it's your fault that you're not doing enough. But we go into this with clear intention and being transparent. We're telling them especially us, we got our pulse on the market. We've never been one to kind of fluff things up. We're always giving straight information of what we see and what's happening. And to be honest, if anyone started following us a couple of years ago, they can see the accuracy is pretty up there, right? Of what I've been predicting and what I've done personally to kind of mitigate what's currently happening. But yeah, it's wild. Wild.
And you're right, having that pulse on the market, even like in September when we saw that inventory dump, like it wasn't until October, like now we're into almost the second week of October, that Tribe released their monthly data from
Did they release it now? They released it?
they
I checked
released
on
it, yeah,
Monday.
we're up 32% more inventory in September over August.
Damn it, Treb. I just bitched them out on Monday. Literally 2 days ago.
They
Today's
heard,
Wednesday. They must have heard the fucking echoes. So what is it? Do you have it on your thing on your computer? Maybe
oh
I'll
no, I
pull it
don't
up.
have it.
I'll pull it up. So what? Tell me more about that.
Well, I'm just saying, like throughout September, because we're watching inventory week over week, we're seeing where we're trending, right? Versus waiting till, like, had we listed a property in September, we would be telling our clients to, like, what the data is showing, that we have a influx, a big dump of inventory. Versus if you're not watching it week by week, you'd be kind of overpricing the property and eating up days on market if you listed something in September, if you're not like following that inventory.
100%. It's just, and that's a problem even going forward. Like I said, like, and this is why even we had some interaction with clients. Obviously, we had our fall event, successful fall event. Over 300 people walked in and out through last Saturday, which was great. But also having conversations. Where do you see the market? When should I list or should I sell? Because some of them are holding investment properties. Some of them are holding properties that they need to sell because of affordability issues. There's just, there's no right time, and you got to go now. You got to go before we hit the bottom of this. Also says I'm looking at it now. So it's 18,900 active listings, 4.1 months of inventory. What was it last? What was
August?
yeah, so 4.1, let me see. Oh, 2.9. Yeah, there you go. But like, so look, you would have to wait, we're what, October 11th? You'd have to wait 11 days into the month. Well, we were on a weekly basis figuring this out, you know what I mean? So we're not surprised by these numbers. We're not like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's actually too low because it's inaccurate at this point.
Yeah, no, if that's 18,000, today we're at 19.6, right? It
19.6,
was
yeah.
18.4. So just from the data that just came out, we're over 1,200 units
Yeah.
above what we're reporting.
And we're doing 2-to-1 ratio again, like we did when we hit 19,000, where it's like 200 on, 100 off. So we're gonna double our inventory in like 10 days like this, or at
Mm.
least no. When will we double our inventory? Well, it'd be like 10,000 units, 10 days, so it'd be 19 days rather. If we did 2-to-1 ratio, right? We double our, but we would never get to that height. But I would see, we would probably see now like 22,000 units at least going into the Christmas season.
When
Um,
was the at 22,000, like 17?
I don't even think we hit that high. I
I
gotta be
have,
honest. I think it was
I don't
21.
know.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a look at it. But again, even if you look at it, like historically going towards Christmas, is that you're gonna see less inventory naturally, kind of just really kind of uh like leans right out. This is what we're even clients are is like, why are we gonna listen in December? Or we shouldn't, it's holiday season. This is there was always we had like a sales script, and it made sense to me because look, December you're like like very happy, weather's starting to snow, there's a lot of emotions, you're a lot of visiting, seeing family and friends, a lot of alcohol, let's face it. And then ultimately you're going to make your most expensive purchases or overpriced purchases when you're running with emotion. So if you're feeling good, everything's looking good. There's Christmas lights, Christmas trees, this whole thing of like feeling good, warm and fuzzy inside. You're always paying more money. And then if the inventory is coming down, it's just like it's a great combination to sell a house. This is why we usually capitalize going into December too with clients. But I don't know how this year is going to transpire, right?
Well, that inventory is going to be going in the opposite direction as it normally does, right?
I think so. And I think also it like if you notice like even Christmas as a whole, like the spirit is kind of dying off. I gotta be honest. Like you see less and less like Christmas lights. I know there's obviously a lot of different demographics and stuff like that don't celebrate Christmas, but let's say in heavy Christian Catholic areas, you don't see that much celebration anymore. So it's just I don't know if people just don't care or I don't know. So again, maybe we won't have that like spirit for paying more money for a house in December anymore. We'll find out this year.
Yeah, no, I think I think this is the year that we were talking about for the last like few months, right? Like where we're getting into that high inventory market now. So we'll see even getting into January, right? January is typically slow. Last year it was like a light switch went off week two and January just went crazy, right? So maybe the January of 24 is the January we thought was going to happen in 23, right?
I think so, dude. Honestly, I got to be honest, because look, it's we all all those real estate investors that we watch, like true guys, like real guys like us, just way more successful, right? And we kind of follow their lead on a lot of things. Ken McElroy, clearly, right, and Kiyosaki, but ultimately it's they always mention lag time, and it just makes sense. Like it's such like a very sloppy thing. Like to make a turn, it's like trying to shift like a cruise liner rather than say like a speedboat, like a stock market. So it's just like constant turn. But this is, to be honest, you're starting to. It's still people held up a lot. Um, what I expected. I think that's the only where I made a mistake with that on timing is just the holding power. I didn't realize that the banks were going to open up the mortgages, make them pay interest only, or not even interest only, but take out of the actual principal that was already in the property. So if that was the case where they cut it off there, we would have had an earlier crash for sure. But I think now it looks like we're there. Um,
Yeah, because all these renewals are coming up, whether it's even the fixed or the variable. Like they're saying that I think I read a stat, 47% of all mortgages will be feel like the implementation of this higher rate by the end of this year. So there's another 53% that has to go through a renewal process to feel those pains, right? And the variables are getting nailed the most still because, like they said, 4 out of 5 major banks still haven't. They don't feel the variable. The variable rates don't feel the pain because they're only paying their interest and it's not even they're in all of it, right? They're just tacking onto the back end of their mortgage. So when those guys get hit with it, they're going from rates that they paid 1.82% to they're gonna have to increase their payment to like a 6.5, 6.3, 6.5%. Well, you're getting that's like 2.5 times your payment.
So crazy, man. Because look, you always talk about your dad. Remember in the 80s, like my dad through the 80s, late 80s, everyone felt the pinch. It was this whole thing. I remember my dad still talked about it when we got into like mid in the 2000s when I started, even before I heard it, but then I started working with him. It was always like he would remember like on 680 News, my dad would always listen to that shitty channel. And it was like people just call it in saying that we can't hold the house. We're going to give it up. We're walking away from it. This was our dream. It was our Canadian dream to own this house, blah, blah, blah. And then now we just can't afford it just based on our circumstances. Afford our, income hasn't increased. It's the same story right now. Income has not, our income's only going up slightly and the value of houses went up, where they went up just to the moon. But back then they never had as many expenses that we had today. Like back then it was like car usually was paid in cash because usually people held cars back then 10, 12 years.
Can't finance either back then, right? You had to buy
No.
the car.
And to be honestly, I'm 42 years old right now. I paid like all the vehicles I currently own are all paid in. They're all paid. There's no because obviously the importation to the States, so you have to pay them off before getting. So anything in my garage is like paid for, right? And I'm gonna go back to that old school. I was talking to you about this just before. To be honest, I don't see a need anymore. Like you have to go through that, turn vehicles and stuff like that. It's fun, but for me, it's like I got that E-Class that's going to be timeless. My wife's SUV, like it'll be a 10-year vehicle. Like it's not going to rust here. Who gives a shit, right? And the other two cars there, I have the Alfa and the Porsche. Like those are timeless, so those would be done. I'm gonna drive the shit out of those things, and then maybe time to time I might buy something to kind of add to the collection. But I can't see myself like going back into that trap of having another lease payment or something like that. Like especially like because so there's a trap obviously in Canada where it's like you can only write up to $800 or 750. Try to get something around that amount of money, so you're always out of pocket no matter what, right?
Yeah, no, those days have come and gone, right? A with rates and prices, B with prices of vehicles are just insane.
Yeah.
So
Even if you were to write off 100%, because I always kept my margins tight. I'm a little I spend, but I'm also like conscious, right? Like when I bought those AMGs, it was like the first one, the 450 AMG, was like $711 a month. Okay, so again, it's below the $800 threshold. The other car was like 780 or something, or 820, something like that. So it was around the threshold. It was a little out of pocket, a few bucks. But then you talk to your accountants, if they're scared shitless, like I tell them, I'm saying, if I work 12, 14 hours a day, and that's the vehicle that's being used, what private time is in that car? I have an SUV. That's our family. But they're terrified to write off the full 100%. You're going to cause, like someone looking into it, and this is like, holy shit. So I use the vehicle 100% for its purpose for work, but now I got to write off 80% of that because you don't want to raise any flags. It's just, again, it's just like money out of pocket. How much money do you want to go out of pocket? I think right now it's all about being saving your money and getting an opportunity to invest. Clearly, we got our thing, what we're doing down here. We got the business down in Toronto, which is doing well. And it's this matter of now of just straight investment, like no more spending on. Again, I'm preparing a house and a whole bunch of shit, so I can't be too. I'm doing my own type of spending too, also, right? But I mean, like having extra
No, but
money.
you're right. Even in general, though, being cautious moving forward, just like it's almost like you got to survive the tidal wave. Whoever is able to ride out the wave is gonna come out on top in the end, right? If that wave knocks you down, like it's gonna be a lot harder to get up on the other side of that storm, right?
100%. I think in times like this, instead of eating beef, you eat beans. It's just
You
reality.
cancel your what is it, Netflix or no Disney Plus subscription, as Freeland says.
Well, yeah,
I
but
don't,
that's sound advice from one of the most brilliant minds in today's political games, right?
yeah, so we'll see. Like even going back to the beginning of the year, like I remember we were on a listing presentation, and there was a lot of optimism from this one particular client where her mortgage broker was telling her, yeah, you know what, the rates, they're gonna hold rates, they're gonna hold rates. Yeah, they held rates, and then what did they do in June and July, right? They raised them, right? That particular person went on vacation 6 times since January to August. So like a little bit of a situation there now, right? They were kind of told A, by the Bank of Canada, and B, by their mortgage broker, that rates are going to come down and we're going to be okay. So they didn't adjust lifestyle accordingly, and now there's a little bit of an issue there with affordability, right? So yeah, we're having that conversation about listing for the downsize,
But I
right?
remember I remember that
Yeah.
the lady that you're talking about, right? It's you couldn't get any more through that. It was almost like going through towards pleasure and not pain. It should always be the reverse. I think that any sign of growth, you need to go through pain. You got to go towards the pain and away from pleasure. And I mean, at that time, the amount of money we could have got them, right? It was amazing coming out of there. It was like, wow, like this is pretty decent in a depressed market, and then you can hold that money and then ultimately do everything you got to do. But it's like, now what's the situation there? It's not good, right? Financially, we knew it was bad then, but now it's
No, yeah, we're back to the drawing board, right? Where you have to, like, you're gonna have to make a decision.
it's so crazy. I don't understand. I'll give you another example too. Another client, same idea where it's like constant communication of where's the market at, how's it going, and you tell them exactly what's happening. We had like these blips of like positivity, then there's downside, then we're going up, and then now we're totally in a downside. But we kind of knew this going into it, where it's like you have a period to cash out. Even me, like I have that one duplex, we lowered the price today, another 10,000. At this point, I'm losing money 100%. We sold lots off the back, but that's a separate deal, right? But on this particular deal, I'm losing money now. I'll be down 30,000-50,000 from when I bought it after the investment, right? Again, I'll create a capital loss. I'll do something like that to kind of regain it. But at this point, I want it out because that's a renewal in a year, right? And I don't want it. I have no interest in it. And this is the same client where I've been telling them what we were doing, and now they're in a situation um, where they can't afford to live. And the problem is that they're going off of a mentality where government's not going to bury us. They've been, it's impossible. They don't want to screw the economy up, this whole thing of this. And this is not one client. I've heard this all through many professionals. And the professionals I'm talking about, everybody, right? That have told me, told you, told us about this, that this is when I was selling out, even maybe before I met you, actually, I was selling off all my assets, stuff like that. People thought I lost my mind. I got COVID in the brain, they thought. Um, so it was, and now going back to that, it's like now they thought that the government's not going to screw them, their policies, they're going to keep the economy propped. This is just basically a cleanse period, and they're going to back down the interest rates to get it back to a point where affordability can come back. So they basically, in the last year, where they had an opportunity to kind of sell everything off and down, not even downsize, you just need to move to another area for the same type of house. So it's not like, I mean, you're doing that segment this for that. This is obviously our game plan from coming in from the new year, or in August rather. It's like, well, if you sold this, what can you get over there, kind of thing. And it's not like in Mexico or in Texas or in Florida. No, it's like your neighboring properties. When you can put away $200,000-$300,000 and have just a 20 minute more drive, it'll help you out. And now, so going back to this current situation with these people is that they basically borrowed lines of credits, visas, everything, every form of credit, even family money, to kind of hold everything together. And now there's nothing left. The well is totally dry. There's no more money. What are you going to do now? They're not going to start making mortgage payments or lease payments on their vehicles, or the credit card payments. So basically they're going to be in default next 3 to 4 months. So now if we get the call to sell the property, what do we got to sell it at in order to make them come out whole, or at least get it sold and closed before they take it from them, or they take their cars, or whatever they do, right? So it's like now you're down to the wire. This is like seeing a bomb with C4 attached to it, and you had like 10 minutes to like call a professional to defuse it, but like, nah, don't worry about it, I'll figure it out. I've done this through YouTube and I believe it. And it's like now you're down to 10 seconds and it's down counting, and you don't know if it's the yellow or red wire you got to cut. So now you're calling a professional, which falls on our plate, and it's like full scramble mode, where it's like, what you wanted X, no, you got to be a Y now. If you can't be a Y, we can't go live to the market. No one's gonna buy it, and you're gonna be stuck, and you're gonna lose it. So that's where we're currently at with this situation.
You're right. I think people basically thought that rates were going to start coming down. Meanwhile, like, because the another thing too, the media was saying rates were coming down by the end of the year. And there was all that hype where they started in the late spring, early summer to hold the rates. But now we're talking about raising a rate one time, maybe even twice by the end of the year. And they're talking about holding rates where they are until like 2025. Like, so the guys that were kind of like holding their breath, like you're saying here, and borrowed from everyone that they knew to just stay afloat to now, well, those guys are going to sink, right? And we
Yeah.
haven't even talked about the job market. The job market's still okay. Wait until we see that lag from jobs like being lost, right? I don't know. I'm talking to a couple people. Some people, like I'm talking to my dad's company, they're busy for 2 years. But then I have other guys that, like I was telling you, for example, the landscaping guys that I give the job at my house to, like they're taking it at costs. Like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna do it and do the job, but if they're taking it at cost, they're trying to keep their guys busy, right? Like, how many jobs could they take at cost, right? Until they start feeling the pain, right? Even builders, right? We're talking to some builders that like prolonging projects, they're closing them down, like because they're not making sales. So,
Well, we talked to one over the last week. It was get the land prepared, get it all done, get streets in, put the ground in, like all the sewers and all that. Set up the sales center, fire it off, and then there's no contracts coming in. And then they get a call like 7-8 days later, shut it down, take it off the list. So now but even the builders, by this standard, if they have, I don't know why they're oblivious about what's happening. I don't know if they need more boots on the ground. Like, I don't get it. It's like, so now that they've set up, even
gravy.
these
It's been
what's
too good
that?
for. They don't have as many boots on the ground because it's been a gravy train. It's been too good for too long, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's like,
They
so
didn't need.
now if you have all this land that's ready to get developed, you spent 10, 15, $20 million, put streets and lights and ran electrical through and put all the sewers in. Maybe, I don't know, is that for 200 houses, 10, $12 million? That makes sense. I'm not even sure. Maybe more. It must be more. Well, they wanted 500,000 just for my 14 townhouses. So I don't know, dude. He's got to be up there $20 million, maybe more. Probably more.
Yeah, you got to be somewhere around there.
Yeah, so let's
I
say
mean,
$20 million plus the land. Like some of these guys are old school and they had these things paid off for years, but a lot of them, like these newer companies or big conglomerate companies, they're not using their own money. They're they're borrowing. They want to get bigger. They want to be bigger than the next guy, so they don't have all the money in house. That's usually like a small family type mentality where it's like, yeah, we'll roll up into the next one. And then we'll take a time, right, until we build the next one, roll up another one. Now these guys are like mass scales, like keep buying land because we've got to keep going here. There's a demand, and now these guys have all these payments and stuff like that. I mean, we saw Urban Corp go bankrupt, early on, and clearly there was a lot of fraud and shit like that going on. But how many of those builders have that same rusty internals that are probably going to be exposed right now?
yeah,
It's like
State View is another one.
Stateview,
The one
yeah.
that
Was that the one that
mentioned.
was kiting checks? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
steal
They
from
were off,
Peter
they were
to give
offering
people.
more money for properties just to tie it up.
What were they doing? Sorry.
They were offering more, like in particular, I heard a story. They offered a, a landowner more for their property, like to tie it up. Long story short, it didn't work out, and thankfully for them. But
Like 2 million
like
bucks too, right? It wasn't like, we're not talking peanuts. Yeah.
5,000, 10,000, no.
Yeah. It's interesting
No.
times, man. I know. It's just we're gonna see what we're gonna do next year, right? Obviously we got plans and we're heavily gearing towards plan A. Basically, I feel like we're in Formula One where it's like, the pit crews like plan A, plan B, plan C. We're sticking to plan A. That was what we initially thought, and I think that's where we're gonna be. So um even the conversation this morning, it's like, clearly we got to keep our business rolling. And again, people are going to still need to buy and sell. It's not a question. I don't feel like we'll have a lag and or like a shortage of sales. Let's say we're at 45. Let's say we end up at, I don't know, like maybe 50 this year. We'll see what happens at the end of the year. We did another one this week, so that's 46. So I mean, ultimately, if we can get it to 50, I mean, that's a great year. We'll close the books, and then clearly now we're looking for 24. I think the last 2 months for me, anyways, is about how's 24 going to look and how we're going to bring in business because um again, there's gonna be a different conversation going forward. Like I was telling you guys, it's not gonna be champagne and popping bottles because we made 200 over asking. It's gonna be like black coffee and like honest conversation and straight talk of strategies and bringing out like a pencil that looks like this and kind of make notes of how we're gonna come out of this thing clean. It's gonna be a different professional going forward, and I think even we're talking to our coach Sean about all the changes in real estate going forward, with buyers agents, contracts, stuff like that. I think we're gonna see a lot of realtors migrate into other fields and just drop out their licenses. So
Yeah, it makes sense. There's too much change that some aren't going to want to adapt, and others is going to be, I think, too costly that they're not making any money. It's not going to be worth it.
where else do you go? Like again, we're not qualified. Like I'm not qualified to make the money I make in a corporate world, to be honest, because I'm more of, let's say, I should own the company. Like our mentality is more entrepreneurial, not like I can do these crazy things and graphs and like presentations and stuff like that. Like where's a lot of these realtors gonna go? Like where like they're making 100, 2, 3, 4, 500 $1 million a year. Like where does that person go? In which industry? You know what I'm saying? This is my struggle the last, I think it was 2017, we had that first market shift. I'm like, okay, so that's good. We've done, I was doing chairman in 2016, so 500 plus, 17 the same. It's like, where do we go now? What do I do? Let's just pretend that this never comes back. How do I create the same amount of income that I was making in 2017? That's when I started thinking about this, and it's like 5 or 6 years later, and it's just like still like now, there's I have ideas of not many great ideas. I got to be honest. It's always attached to real estate, if there's any. Like that's all I pretty much know. And now imagine if they with all these new regulations coming out, and then it's like either we adapt and rejig everything and kind of be like the forefront of everything, where we fucking make 5 times the amount of money, which is possible the way we're talking now, and things that we're talking about is the potential to do that if things really shift, or you fucking die off.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's gonna be you're gonna thrive or die, right?
Yeah. And you know how it is. It's like the people not thinking about this. Again, I did that little videos in my garage talking about changes, stuff like that. I had a little bit of like a rant. I don't usually do them, but it was more of like a necessary thing. A lot of changes here in Florida too, which you get upset when like someone you spend so much time with, especially my assistant there was like it's an emotional factor, right? It's almost better that they're on a separate office. You kind of just barely talk to them. When you know people personally and then they kind of disappoint you, it's the worst. So it was like I had that little bit of that rant with about that, but it was also talking about fuck, I lost train of thought. Imagine that. I have no idea. I forgot what I was gonna say. It's talking too much shit. I forgot what I was gonna say. The rant was what? What was the rant about? Oh shit. It'll come to me at some point, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Where was I going? Do you remember can you backtrack?
Well, you were talking about like spending time with like in particular individuals and
Yeah.
investing a lot of energy. And we're
Well,
talking about how the market shift, like the agents are shifting where a lot will probably drop off and where they're gonna go.
yeah,
Uh,
okay. I don't know. I got to figure it out. Something, but anyway, yeah, I know there was something in there, but ultimately, um, we'll see what happens. Like, I guess we'll figure out even like the future of how the real estate looks. Um, go from there.
not to say that
What's
you're
that?
not gonna need, and not to say that you're not gonna need agents or you're not gonna need builders. Like obviously, like not every builder is gonna go under. I think the smaller guys are gonna have trouble in the next couple years, but the big boys, yeah, they're gonna have trouble. They're gonna make it through, most likely. I would say, like they'll probably adjust accordingly, but I think it's gonna be the middle class that gets nailed, like the construction workers that have to go build those homes, right? Like, yeah, we're gonna have a shortage again at the end of all this for sure. But how far down the road and how much does it come down? We don't know.
Uh, Listen, the immigration's strong, which is good. I mean, once everything becomes more affordable, more certain, it'll open up the floodgates again, no doubt. But there's gonna be a time of a pause, and that's probably how long is it gonna be? Is it 1 year, 2 year, 3, 4, 5? We've seen that in the late 80s. Like recession was 88, 89, and then it started bouncing back 97. So that's 7, 8 years of like bleak. I remember my dad when he was a framer, it was like, hey, you were home, you're working this week, and then you're home next week. Then you might get a job in 2 weeks. And he worked directly with subcontractors and builders, so it wasn't like he was out knocking on doors. So it was like the work, these guys couldn't produce the work, and there were like Townwood homes where it was you're talking before Townwood is what it is today. It used to be the Gasparis and all the big shots were part of Townwood. So that was like fucking, it was like a mad at me at some point, right? And then they sold off and everyone went independent. But these guys are building a lot of homes. And for them not to produce work, you imagine, like, what were they all doing? What was everybody doing? Like, what were you doing? Like, somebody that builds 1,000 houses a year and it's not building right now, what are they doing? I'm just curious. Are they just like
You got to be
sit?
building maybe like 100 if they're building 1,000. Like I don't know, 10% of what your normal production would be. Maybe I don't know. I don't
I
know.
guess they're building here and there, customs, people with money. But I would imagine they would have some great assets that are creating cash flow, like commercial real estate. Like a lot of those guys, those Italian, old Italian guys that ran all those construction companies and building companies, they had like a shitload of commercial real estate. Um, but what if no one's? I don't know. Like it's a scary thought. Even for us, like what would we do? Like that's what I'm trying to get this the development to get going, right? I need some sort of if I had to unplug out of real estate, I think you're gonna need some sort of outlet where it's like, okay, you know what, it's done. Like there's no point. And then go again. This could be years out, right? But I'm saying that, like, oh, talking about preparedness, done that little messages that rant I was talking about. everyone gains a strength in life, right? Everyone has a strength. Like everyone has a backstory that gives them some sort of extra gears to kind of like push and become successful and shit like that. Mine was always failing in school, failing, always failing, like in life, in a sense, because I was never prepared. Never, no parental guidance. I'm like, hey, you have to study. You got to test tomorrow. You got to, there's none of that. It's just you just like you went to school. You came home. You did no homework. You went to you failed your test. So that's going forward as me going forward. It was like, I guess it just naturally it came to it where it's like I'm always prepared for everything because I don't want to fail anymore. This is why we're talking about the end of potentially realtors or the way realtors do business, even if it's 3 to 5 years in advance. At least set a plan today. Something were to happen, you can unplug it. You already have an idea. You can kind of move forward with it, right? That's the whole point. Preparedness.
No, you're 1,000% right. Like that's why we have so many avenues going forward, right? For plan A for now, but at the end of the day, if you're like Ferrari and end up on plan D and halfway through a race, at least you have a plan. You're
We need to
prepared, right?
we need to be more like Red Bull in this one. No point up here wearing red and drinking espressos and having plan F. This is like, Red Bull's like plan B is the most. They have like everything kind of condensed into like two plans.
Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah.
No,
It's
it is. Another thing I thought I was talking to someone about the other day, the green belt. Like, okay, I understand in the 80s or 90s, whatever, they put the green belt in to control like urban sprawl. We want to control where we're building, stuff like that, right? But we've created like this massive bubble of like pricing, right? I don't know, can we cut it in half? Like the green belt's massive. If we had half the green belt, there's like builders aren't competing over lands, right? So we're not paying a stupid amount of money for the land, in turn selling houses at stupid prices. Like we could create more supply on top of the red tape that we have to fix in our development fees and all that. But like, I don't know, wouldn't that be a huge solution to affordability in our area?
again, so again, I was in construction and I remember vividly, McGinty, which is a liberal, locks us up in the green belt. And again, I know the backstory, everything, but it was a liberal that locked it up, okay, McGinty. Um,
Hmm.
and everyone was like freaking, I'm a green thumb. I thought it was a great idea. I'm like, fuck it, protect the land. Protect the land. It's smart. I was 22 years old. I'm like, I love, like I hate to see nature going away, right? Like you see the jungles getting cut down and in South America and shit like that. So that's me a little bit. I'm a green thumb, and not knowing that what it was actually doing was going to bottleneck the future. And what they were trying to do is just save money on services, policing, fire station, roads. So it was going to save the government money because they didn't have to expand. And they'd lock it and they would condense everything into what's currently happening now. So instead of having these big urban sprawl
Yeah,
subdivisions north of the city, they were like forcing people to come in. Ramification. Land became what it is today, impossible to buy at the prices because of the scarcity of it. When you have a lot of
yeah.
something, clearly it's a lot cheaper. Like here, you can buy a lot in Florida for $20,000, build a beautiful house on it. Do that,
So
and you can do
sure.
that. You can write a check.
Anyone. Yeah,
Yeah, you write a check in a good area,
yeah.
like good family area. Like this is, I want to raise my kids here. 50 grand maybe where we're looking, 50, 60, 20 if you want to go a little bit to the other side there.
The boonies, but it's possible either which way,
I know, but
right?
there's a mass amount of land that's available, and it's going to get expensive here because we've seen even the lots that we're looking at next week. You're coming down Sunday, right? Coming this Sunday, right? Yeah. So, like, if I tracked one of them, they're asking, I think, 68 or $70,000. 2020, it was bought for like 20 grand, 15, 19,000, something stupid, maybe less. I think it was 95. I think it was $9,500. It's 600% right now above where it traded in 2020. 3 years ago. And to us, it seems affordable.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why some of these builders have bought these things in advance.
They're
Their
sitting.
margins are nice because there's your 40, 50K there, right? So they can kind of like push through it a little bit better than we have to be a little bit more conscious of what we're doing.
Yeah, but the ship hasn't sailed by any means, right? So
No, no,
it's
no,
not it's not
no.
GTA. Going back to like us and the green belt and all that, it's confusing to me. Like it's like, We have the biggest, one of the second largest landmass in the world, and one of the smallest populations. But we're just like stuck in this one spot and we can't expand, and nor can most of us afford it. So
Yeah.
it's like counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's weird because look, they had a big influx of immigration, even Europe, like Italians, like all Europeans rather, like we know our part, but there was East Europe, like Poland, Czech, whatever, like a lot of these guys coming in Germany. So a lot of the Germans were before us actually. But I mean, they shut that down. I don't know politics and why that was shut down early. And then now they've since the 80s, it's been like South Asia, like the Indian population, and that's where our, if you look at the migration, it's not coming from any European country. It's the demographic is South Asian, right? It's not Caucasian, rather. Um, I don't know, like, but if you had a choice, to be honest, let's just say you're an immigrant, like how I've migrated here now currently. Do you stay? Do you go to America or do you go to Canada? Like I don't know, like. I don't think that it has a lot to offer anymore. I mean, they talk about free healthcare, but it's we pay heavily through that through taxes. I think if you really size things up and you had an opportunity, you're going to go to America. That's why America's at 340 million, right? So it's a whole different story. Um,
It was different when, and the opportunity was in Canada when our grandparents or your parents
yeah,
came, right? That opportunity, I think, is out the window now.
I think it's. I don't see a future for the kids currently right now. I don't know if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but I think just they've done too much damage. The last this administration now, as much as we care who's in power or not, just the amount of damage, like through taxation, through everything. There's no place for someone that wants to be an entrepreneur or like, then you got, I have a lot of friends and family that are in the government or teachers and stuff like that. I get it. But they feel threatened by, let's say, a conservative government because they're going to lose their job or they're going to make cuts. They're not going to make cuts. And even for the conservative government to even have that like inkling that it's going to cut cuts on teachers is stupid. We have to give the teachers more money. This is dumb. Give them more money. They're educating our kids. Get the best people teaching the kids there. Like those are my kids. I don't want the mediocre teachers. Like give them more money. Get more talent there. That's stupid, right? But at the same time, so that when you get those votes every year where it's like, yeah, I just want to protect my pension, I want to protect my job, but they're not realizing that they're affecting their children. Like, does your like like I mean, your wife's a teacher. Do you want your children to be a teacher? Do you want them to be a civil
No.
servant? Like, no, like you, like me, I'd love my kids to be entrepreneurial, do something that they love, do something that they create, be an employer rather. Like, I mean, that's the goal. Whatever they do in life is whatever they do, but that's what I would love to see them do. So I think if you're a parent and you're protecting these things with not really understanding the ramifications, if you're going to lose your job or if there's going to be cuts or if your pension's going to be attacked, I think you should be looking at the future of your kids rather than the short term, right? And this is it is what it is. So I don't see any. And again, America's got a ton of problems here. There's another war just broke out in Israel and Gaza. So how does that affect? Like obviously Israel's a friend of America, and I would imagine they're gonna help that situation out the best they can. I think Israel can deal with it on its own. It's not a very big place, but if Iran and all these other places come in, now America's gonna put boots on the ground. Then you have like a war in Europe, but a Euro war over here, and then so that's and America's always in the middle of all that. So that's the only thing that I see an issue here with the constant like policing of the world, which that book we read, the end of the world is just a beginning. They're going to pull back and they're just going to police itself rather than police the world at some point, which I think, to be honest, would be a better place for here because North America rather. So between Canada, America, and then like Mexico going in, like I think it'll be a better place in the sense where do whatever you want. We'll do our
Well,
thing.
and we have the resources and the talent to self-sustain, right?
Yeah. Look at AI technology. I mean, this is the new wave. This is like almost like the internet being invented. You know what I'm saying? Like I speak highly of it because I use it a lot now, and it's going to be I can't. It's just having a very intelligent friend on me or beside me at all time where I can actually communicate, and then gives me all the answers that I'm always seeking. So which is great. Um, but that's invented in the U.S. It's here. It's here first. Like we're still the leader of everything. I mean, California is not a very good place currently right now, just based on the way they govern that state, and the amount of homelessness and crime has gone up. And did you see San Francisco? It's a
Yeah,
ghost
but
town.
a friend that just came from there. He said he was like avoiding sections of San Fran because he goes, we would walk through and there's just so many homeless that it was like
Yeah.
not enjoyable.
Imagine Yorkville, and though it's very small and very small, but imagine every store on in Yorkville just boarded up. That's basically San Fran. I saw a video yesterday. It's fucking scary.
Look how
That's
unaffordable it is.
failure
It is.
of
It doesn't make sense.
failure of government, and fair shame on all those people that manage that city. Shame on them. Shame on them. They should they should resign automatically and say, this is not a job for me. This is not my job. I can't, obviously I can't deal with it. Resign. Let someone else that's going to go in there and fix that. So now you've, I don't know if it's
And they
purposeful.
tried,
What's that? Like it's going to
and they
be
were driving for years.
real estate's gonna be very cheap there. Like from
Yeah.
the most expensive real estate in the world to like, who the fuck's gonna pay for that shit? You're not gonna get tenants.
There's an exodus out of there, mass exodus. Like, look, they're talking about taxing uh Californians that are moving out of the state for up to 10 years for an exit tax.
Crazy.
So yeah, you're right. If people are moving away, that's obviously going back to Florida, Texas. Why do you want to invest there? Because that's where people are going to.
Yeah. And
So
nice people. Everybody that I've met, obviously there's a few assholes in everywhere, but I mean the people that I relatively met here are great people. Like I don't know, I very
and
friendly.
I saw you had in one of your videos you had put you had mentioned that Naples is the safest place in the
America.
US.
Yeah.
And then I'm scrolling down, Naples is the safest. Number three is Fort Myers, and you're like in the middle. So like
I'm in
it's
Estero.
you're like
I'm protected by the safest.
you're in this surrounded by the safest places in America, right? Like you can't get better than that. Like I'm talking, there's shootings over here too, just like anywhere else. But there's a break-in just around the corner from our office. There's
Was there? Yeah, where on Tree Lawn?
no, KB Kleinberg Summit, but
Oh, really?
like yeah, forced entry like the other night. Like these things happen. I'm sure they happen there. I'm sure they happen everywhere. But at the end of the day, you're the safest place out of 350 million people. It's pretty good.
Pretty damn good. And to be honest, Second Amendment state, clearly, like if someone's coming in, like breaking in Nobleton, I was terrified. That's why I had so many cameras. Like and you can't defend yourself. You'd have to like, God, you gotta wish for the best, right? But at least in a Second Amendment state, you have the right to protect your house in any which way you want, as long as I'm not shooting someone in the back. So I think that's I know there's a lot of people that hate to hear that and feel like that's not the way to do things, but when you got kids and a wife and you got animals
Want to
on
be able to have the
and you got
ability to act, right?
yeah and you got people on the other side of the door have really ill intentions, I think I like the option. The option is good.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%, 100%. Like, and it doesn't seem like it happens that often there for the safest place. So
No, it's pretty good. Again, you can always be targeted, right? That's probably what's happened. You've seen there KBS. Those are targeted.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so again, you have the right to protect yourself, which is the best option you have, because police and everything, when they're gonna get there? 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes? I don't know, right? Like you don't know. Imagine my area, there's a gate. You have to look at the gate up. You're driving through it. You're like, you gotta get in there. Hey, open up the gate. Or maybe they have the thing. Maybe they have the code or something on like a unit, like a master key rather, on all subdivisions. That should be. It probably is. Yeah. So it is what it is, buddy. Play it by ear.
No, you're right.
Plan A.
Stick to plan A.
I
We're rebel on this.
love it. Alrighty, buddy. I'm gonna head back. Get doing a few things, and then that's it. We'll talk in the morning.
Sounds good, but
Okay, Mike. Have a good one.
yeah.
Ciao.